Level 1. The beginning. You are 9 years old. There is a kid at school who makes your stomach drop every time you see him in the hallway. Not because he has done anything especially bad, just because something in the way he looks at you makes you feel small. Your teacher announces a group project. Students choose their own groups. You already know what you are going to do. You move to the quietest corner of the room. You sit with the 2 kids you already know. You do not look toward the group near the window. You complete the project. You receive a decent grade. Nobody notices anything unusual. That night, lying in bed, there's no guilt, no awareness of anything lost, only the quiet, unremarkable comfort of a day that passed without incident. You do not know it yet, but something in you just learned something about the world, and more importantly, about what you will do when it feels threatening. Level 2. The habit forms. You are 13. Middle school is an environment that systematically exposes insecurity and rarely allows it to go unobserved. You have an idea in English class. A real one. There is a pressure in your chest that comes when something clicks into place. Your hand begins to rise. Then, you glance at the boy 2 rows over, the one who laughed the last time someone gave a wrong answer. Your hand comes back down. You write the idea in your notebook instead, small letters, near the margin, out of sight. The teacher calls on someone else. Their answer is similar to yours, not as developed. The class moves on. You feel something you cannot name yet. It is not quite regret and not quite relief. It sits in your chest for the remainder of the day. Your parents ask how school was. Fine, you say, and you mean it. Over the semester, the notebook fills. Ideas in margins. Observations you had but did not voice. A quiet record of every moment your hand almost went up. You never go back and read it. Level 3. The story builds. You are 16. Avoidance now has a narrative. A reason, almost a personality. You are not the person who fails to speak up. You are the person who thinks carefully before speaking. You are not avoiding the Friday gathering. You simply do not enjoy crowds. You are not afraid of what your teacher might say about your drawings. You are just not ready to share them yet. The narrative is persuasive, mostly because you are the one constructing it, and you are constructing it for yourself. There is someone you have been thinking about saying something honest to for nearly 2 years. Not something rehearsed, something real. You do not say it. You have mapped out 17 different ways it could go wrong. So instead, you remain nearby without drawing close, friendly without being present, available without being known. It resembles patience. It is not patience. At 16, the difference is not yet visible. That is an observation, not a judgment. Level 4. The first real cost. You are 19. First year of university, or your first position with actual professional weight behind it. The first period in your life where the decisions you make carry consequences that extend beyond a single afternoon. An opportunity presents itself. An internship, a project, a public role that requires you to be seen by people whose opinions carry weight. You spend 3 weeks considering it. You produce a thorough list of reasons it may not work out. The list is detailed, carefully constructed. The deadline passes. The first thing you feel is relief. Clean, immediate, physical. The sensation of setting something heavy down. 2 days later, something quieter arrives. It does not announce itself. It surfaces while you are doing something unrelated. Eating, walking, a low and persistent signal. You could have done that. You redirect your attention. You find a task with a reliable outcome. You feel better within the hour. The cost is real. It is simply not visible at 19. The life you did not enter does not exist as something you can point to. It exists only as an occasional absence, most noticeable when things go quiet around you. You remain occupied so that things do not go quiet. Level 5. The identity lock. You are 24. Avoidance is no longer a habit. It has become a trait, a characteristic others use to describe you. Easygoing, low maintenance, calm. You never seem stressed. People find you easy to be around. They say so. What they do not see, what you barely see yourself, is that being easy to be around requires that you never bring anything difficult into the room. No opinion that creates friction. No need that places a burden on someone else. No version of yourself that requires anything from anyone. You are well liked because you are uncomplicated. This works socially. However, a relationship ended 6 months ago. As the other person described it, they never felt as though they truly knew you. They said it felt like reaching for something just slightly out of range. You were present the entire time. You believed you were being accommodating. They experienced you as absent. You return to this more often than you acknowledge. In your professional life, certain things have not moved in 2 years, not because of external circumstances, because each time the path forward required visibility, requesting something, advocating for yourself, placing your name behind a decision
precision. You found a way to remain just beneath the threshold of being fully observed. It is not a lack of effort. You work consistently. The work, however, has always been directed towards outcomes that were already reasonably predictable, where failure, if it came without an audience. At 24, this pattern could be interrupted in a matter of weeks if you chose to interrupt it. You do not make that choice.
Level 6. The rationalization machine. You are 28. By this point, you have developed a sophisticated understanding of why the things you avoid are not worth pursuing. The business concept you've been carrying for 3 years is impractical. The market is saturated. The failure rate statistics are well documented. Proceeding without substantially more preparation would be irresponsible. The conversation that needs to happen with a family member, the one that has sat between you for years without being addressed, has no good timing. They are managing their own difficulties. Raising it now would only complicate things further. The creative work you return to in your thoughts almost daily is for people with more time, more stability, more certainty that what they have made is worth showing. You have an explanation for everything. The explanations are not fabrications. The market is genuinely competitive. The timing is genuinely complicated. The uncertainty around creative work is genuinely real. The reasons are accurate. They are simply not the actual reason. The actual reason is a physical sensation located somewhere behind your sternum. It has no name. It activates reliably whenever you approach the edge of something that matters, and it communicates one clear message. This is too close. You have learned to interpret that sensation as discernment. That is the most precise thing avoidance ever does. It teaches itself to sound like sound judgment. Level 7. The accumulated cost. You are 33. There is a tiredness that sleep does not resolve. It is not acute, not visible from the outside. It is a low, consistent flatness that appears in the middle of the afternoon and does not fully lift. A sense that the days are largely just days. Tasks are completed, life continues. But somewhere in the interval, you have shifted from feeling like someone living their life to someone managing it. Research on chronic stress and emotional suppression consistently indicates that avoidance is not a neutral state. It is not simply the absence of action. Repeatedly avoiding something that holds genuine meaning requires ongoing cognitive effort. There is the maintenance of the explanations, the sustained low-level vigilance required to ensure you never inadvertently move too close to what you have been avoiding, the continuous management of a self-image that cannot afford to be examined too directly. It produces a particular kind of exhaustion, one that is not apparent to anyone observing you from the outside. From the outside, you appear functional, composed, like someone who has found a reasonable way to live. But you are aware of the areas of your life that have not changed in years. The relationship that is adequate but not honest. The career trajectory you selected because it was logical. The version of yourself, the one with ambition, with opinions, with things to say, that you have introduced to almost no one. You are not in a state of clinical depression. That is worth being precise about. You are, however, not fully present in your own life. A part of you has always been aware of the reason.
Level 8. The fracture point. You are 38. Something occurs. It does not require drama. Sometimes it is a death. Sometimes it is a birthday that registers differently than previous ones. Sometimes it is an ordinary afternoon, a song in a car, a photograph, a conversation that ends before it should, and something in you simply shifts position. You find yourself thinking about who you were at 19, the opportunity, the 3 weeks of deliberation, the deadline, the relief. You consider how many years that feeling of relief has been with you. For the first time in a long time, you do not move away from the discomfort that follows. You allow the question to remain open. The question is this: how much of the life you are currently living did you actively choose, and how much of it formed around you because you consistently selected the less threatening option? You do not answer it aloud. You may not fully articulate it even in your own thinking, but something in you registers it clearly. This is not a transformation. It would be inaccurate to describe it as one. You will not wake up tomorrow operating differently. What has changed is that a particular story has developed a crack, the story in which your caution represents good judgment, in which your life reflects considered decisions rather than a long sequence of avoided ones. The crack does not close. You drive home, you eat, you sleep. In the morning, the crack is still there.
Level 9. The slow return. You are 43. Change at this stage does not resemble a transition. It resembles a series of small, uncomfortable actions taken in the absence of certainty. You send the message you have had drafted for 6 months. The wording is imperfect. You send it regardless. For roughly an hour afterward, you feel unwell. Nothing catastrophic occurs. You say the thing at the meeting you have been withholding for 2 years. Your voice is not entirely steady. No one else notices. The exchange that follows is more substantive than anything that has happened in that room recently. You show the work, the creative project, the concept, whatever form it has taken, to someone whose judgment you respect. They do not tell you it is exceptional. They say it is interesting. They ask a question about it. That question carries more weight than any compliment has in recent memory, because it means they engaged with something real. None of these actions are large. Each one feels disproportionately significant, because the cost was never the action itself. The cost was everything that preceded it. The years of margin notes, of redirected attention, of relief purchased at a price that kept accumulating. Each action does not erase that, but it demonstrates something to the part of your nervous system that has been running this pattern for 3 decades. That exposure does not end you. That being visible is survivable. That the least favorable version of being known is still more bearable than the most comfortable version of remaining hidden. You are 43, learning things that were available to you at 19. There is no particular use in being angry about that. You are learning them now. Level 10. The understanding. You are 51. You now understand what avoidance actually was. It was not weakness. It was not a lack of discipline. It was not a character deficiency, despite how it may have been framed internally or otherwise across the years. It was protection. At 9 years old, you assessed the environment and concluded that full visibility carried risk. That conclusion was likely accurate at 9. Children who make themselves conspicuous in unpredictable environments often pay a cost for it. The response was appropriate. In its original context, it was functional. The problem was that the assessment never updated. You carried the threat model of a 9-year-old into every room for the following 4 decades. The professional setting, the relationship, the creative work, the honest conversation, the same signal, the same response, the same withdrawal applied consistently to situations that posed no genuine threat because the system generating the response had never been recalibrated. That is not a personal failure. It is a recognizable human pattern. Understanding it, however, does not end it. The pull is still present. 4 decades of a behavioral pattern does not dissolve because it has been named. You still notice the impulse to reduce your footprint, to withhold the opinion, to frame the retreat as wisdom. What is different now is the interval. There is a moment, sometimes only 1 or 2 seconds, between the impulse and the response. In that interval, a question becomes possible. Is this actually good judgment, or is this a 9-year-old's threat assessment being applied to a situation that is not dangerous? Not every time, not without error, but more consistently than before. That interval, that brief, honest pause, is where change actually lives. You are 51. You are not the person you might have become if this had been understood earlier. That person is a hypothetical, and engaging with hypotheticals at this stage is not productive. You are who you are now, someone who spent a significant portion of life operating from a place of partial concealment, and who is in the process, slowly, imperfectly, of learning what it is to stop. The door is not fully open, but it is open. That is sufficient to move through. You spent decades in a room with the door slightly closed, not because the world outside was as dangerous as it felt, but because once, when you were very young, it was. And no one told the part of you that made that decision that the situation had changed. Now you know. That is not a small thing. That is, in fact, where everything begins.